Hi, I'm Diane. This will be my 4th year gardening. I have found a love and a passion for gardening with my children, and we've used containers, in-ground garden beds, and raised beds. Through this love of gardening, my family and I grow food, and we provide beauty in our front and backyards. So, as promised, this video will actually be 2 parts. This first one for the spring garden is just about dreaming. Figure out what you want to do, how you want to do it, what would be ideal, and then we'll start thinking about what is practical. So to start with, what do you want to grow? Do you want to grow flowers? Do you want to grow fruits and vegetables? What do you want to do? What is the purpose? Is it just for fun? That's how mine started. I needed something to do while I was at home with my kids. So that's how we got started. So what do you like to eat? Think about that. What types of things would you go to the store and buy if budget was not a problem? What kind of space do you have? Do you have just a front porch, a back porch? What kind of sun do you have? Do you have a big yard? Are you going to be using in-ground beds where you can dig in the dirt? Are you going to use containers? Are you going to purchase some raised beds or even build some? Fill them with some soil and grow in there. How are you going to grow? Do you want to use trellises so you can grow vertically, grow up, instead of sprawling things across the ground? It does give you more room. What zone are you in? For me personally, I'm in central Missouri, so I'm actually right on the border between zones 6B and 7A. So it kind of depends year to year where we're at. Something else you should look at and consider is, when's your last frost date? So for me specifically, I've already looked it up. It's April 20th for me. And when's your first frost date? You can just do an internet search for your zip code or even your city and state, and then say last frost date. Also need to look at your first frost date. So for me, my first frost date will be October 15th. That gives me 177 days of growing time. And that's when things are going to be somewhat warm. We will get started with our seeds in actually just a few weeks. So I'll get the next video out pretty quickly so that you can plant seeds with me in a few weeks. So let's think about this. What do you want to grow? I recommend going through some fun seed catalogs, whether it's the real well-known ones or some others, and you can just dream. What would be fun to grow, to do, to see? So I have started a list. This is not an all-inclusive list. This is just some things that I have grown before in the last few growing seasons. Some new things that I want to try. And then I'm forgetting something somewhere. So just to show you a few things here. I have things like onions and sweet peppers, green beans, something simple. Beets, my husband loves beets. Cucumbers, melons, gotta have those tomatoes. I love tomatoes. And since we've had the garden, my older son, who's 5, he actually will not stay out of the garden before dinner time. Anytime we're outside, he'll just run up to a plant and say, "Can I have some of these?" And he'll start picking the ripe ones. At 5, he already knows how to tell if they're ripe or not. And he's teaching his little brother, who's 3, how to tell the difference. No, not the green ones. You want the red ones or the orange ones or the yellow ones, depending on the plant. So it's very fun. I'm looking at a hot pepper, 3 different kinds of carrots, Sugar snap peas, those are always fun. Getting home from school and picking the peas off of the garden at the base of the driveway, and everybody gets a quick snack. It's kind of fun. Looking at some canning tomatoes for myself. Some different types of herbs. That's a really easy one. Basil for me really took off this last year, even though it was so hot, and I was 8 months pregnant, and I mean, we're talking like 100-degree actual heat, and then the real feel was well over 100 degrees. So it was hard for me to get outside, but the herbs just took off for me. I'm looking at doing some flowers because the pollinators love flowers, and I love to look at flowers, and so they're a lot of fun. And some of these I do, I am purchasing still. I don't have them just yet, but some other things that I've just, if I'm at the store and I find a package of seeds that look interesting, I pick them up and I grab them and move on with life. And I do have a couple of different varieties here that I will have to order specifically from a seed catalog. I'm looking at some of these, and I had never heard of this particular tomato before, but it's the Missouri Pink Love Apple Tomato. And it has an interesting story with it, and I do not remember all the details, so I'm not going to butcher the story. But since I live in Missouri, and it was designed in Missouri and for Missouri, I'm going to give it a try this year and see how it goes. I do have a friend from Idaho that is developing a particular type of tomato. They're real big beefsteak type tomatoes, but he's developing it, so it is a hybrid, and the flavor is outstanding. So I'm trying to grow them here in Missouri. My son loves lunchbox peppers, so we grow those. We're also going to look at growing some winter squash, which we will start those early spring, mid-spring, because they are some varieties that take longer to mature. Also, as well, we'll do cucumbers and summer squash, and we'll enjoy a little bit of everything. So your homework for right now is to go and make a list. Dream. Answer these questions for yourself. What do you want to grow? Do you want to grow flowers? Do you want to grow fruits and vegetables? What do you want to grow? What would you like to eat? If you're going to grow things that are edible, make sure that it's something that you're going to eat. If you don't like tomatoes like my sister, then there's no reason for you to be growing tomatoes. But if you like to use a lot of herbs in your cooking, then maybe you need to be looking into herbs, the types that you're going to end up using in your cooking. Think about the kind of space you're going to have. You don't have to start off big. We ended up starting off with a couple of cheap grow lights from the hardware store down the street, and then I think it was like 8 containers, and that's how we started. That's what we started with. And then now I've got a 10 by 25 plus containers and 3 raised beds. So it really just depends on the space that you have and what you're wanting to grow exactly. The next thing you're going to need is to think about what you're going to use. Are you going to be doing in ground? Are you going to put your seeds in the soil that's just in your front or backyard? Are you going to use containers? You do not have to break the bank. They don't have to be the most beautiful things you've ever seen. They can be just a 5-gallon container from the hardware store. They do have food safe ones. Are you going to be using some raised beds, whether you build them or invest in some that you build from the store? It does not matter. It just depends on your budget. It depends on your space and how you specifically are wanting to do it. If you're wanting to grow something that might be doing some vining, for instance, tomatoes, they grow very tall. The tomato that I was referring to earlier that my friend from Idaho grows, it can get up to 12 feet tall. So it needs some type of support. Cucumbers, you can actually, sometimes if you let them go, they'll just vine across the ground. But if you grow them up, they're easier to see. What was another one that I had? Well, peas. I mean, they get about 12 to 18 inches tall and they need some support. I'm forgetting one somewhere. Anyways, so you just need to think about, if on your dream list, you have some things that you want to grow vertically, think about that. It does save you a lot of space, and it's not very, it's pretty cost effective to do that. Figure out what your growing zone is. What's your growing zone? Again, for me, I'm right on the edge of 6B, 7A. What's your last frost date? Because you're going to need to count backwards. Generally, you start seeds 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. That way you can get some things going. There are some other varieties of things that you're going to want to start earlier, some later, and make sure that it's inside your growing range. So find out what your first frost date for the year is. How many growing days do you have? So again, for me, my last frost date is April 20th. My first frost date is October 15th. That gives me 177 days of grow time. Now, those are not set in stone dates. That gives you a ballpark. I personally, for my frost dates, I like using the Old Farmer's Almanac. I generally use it online, and that gives me some good dates. So those are the questions that you need to go dream, write down, look through the catalogs. A company that's somewhat local to me here in Missouri is Baker Creek, rareseeds.com. They have beautiful seeds, very easy to navigate webpage. And my gardener is another really good one. He's got a lot of varieties in his store. You can even look at some of the box ones like Burpee. They have a lot of different options for you as well. So that's what you need to figure out. Dream on paper. I did. I've got a lot that's here. Am I going to grow everything on this list? Maybe at different times, because some will be a spring garden, some will be fall, some things I'll end up planting in small containers, some things I'll grow inside, most things I'll grow outside. So dream, figure out what it is that you want to grow. Go have fun making your list, dreaming, and I'll see you in the next video.